My boss said you're the man for the job.
Oh, your boss got his facts wrong.
Two things you should know about my boss. He never gets his facts wrong. He never takes no for an answer.
Well, there's a first time for everything.
Mr. Creed doesn't like excuses, let alone accept them. You have all the stuff?
Mass. How many teeth does a man have?
Leon.
Room service. Want to play, little girl?
Gentlemen, remember, no violence, no argument, no death for you. The trap is set. Let me come.
And we are live. Good day, everyone, and welcome at the Meticulous Moments podcast, where we facilitate community upliftment through leadership development. And today we have a super special guest. He's joining me here in the studio, and we are so excited to have him join us for a wonderful conversation. How are you, Silvio?
Thank you very much. I'm doing very, very well. I know this is out of the ordinary, but I like your show already. We've just started, but I like the show already. It looks very classy.
Thank you so much for making the time. I appreciate the compliment. And, we are going to have a lovely discussion today about you. And, the audience want to learn more about you. So I wanted to ask, at the onset of this interview, tell us, who is Silvio? A little bit about your background. Where did everything start for you? Your passions, your life dreams?
Well, I guess having been a kid growing up in the 70s, I was very much inspired by Bruce Lee, as most people from my generation would say. So I had natural inclination to start martial arts. And my passion for martial arts was so immense, the belts changed color very, very quickly. I started to compete nationally and thereafter internationally with a decent deal of success. Eventually, I became a world gold medalist in Taekwondo. And I think that the showmanship, the acting side was always there, because I like to showcase many of the skills I've acquired in martial arts at public displays and demonstrations. So I think getting onto big screen was just a natural progression for me. But before I got onto the big screen, I used to be sponsored by some big companies. So I did some advertising for these companies before I started doing the filming itself. So I was somewhat familiar with media and productions and filming from advertising point of view. But my first movie was Black Mask 2, which was Choi Hark alongside Scott Adkins. I started off as a stuntman, but I fell in love with the industry so much I didn't showcasing my skills. So I asked the director and producer to put me in the film, and they wrote my name in the script in the first film. So that's how I started off.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You've always definitely been a go-getter. And I believe that the martial arts reinforced that confidence, because if I look back at my own journey in martial arts, it really builds your confidence, it builds your morals and your values. And for me, and I said this in an interview the other day when I was on the other side of the interview, I was the guest, I said, martial arts really helped me to discover me. And you know what I was capable of. Was it the same experience for you?
100%. And nowadays I teach kids as young as 3 to 6, 7 to 12 and upwards. So I understand the impact and power that it can have upon children. But for me personally, when I first came to UK, because I was a foreigner, I was being bullied quite severely. And naturally, they had a big impact on me as a child. I lost my confidence. I lost all my friends who I left behind. Insurance for me was a very fundamental turning point for me, because it gave me immense self-esteem, and as you mentioned, unprecedented confidence to think I'm not going to be victimized. I don't want to be a victim. So I turned it out completely in my favor.
Amazing, amazing. There's definitely, like you said, personal empowerment involved. And I looked at your video that we just played, you know, and I've looked at a few. I like to do research before I speak to a guest here on the show. And I want to ask you, you know, the fight sequences that you do, how long does it take to practice a fight sequence? How does that work?
Well, it's really funny, but you asked me earlier on how I started off and transition from doing martial arts to doing TV work. I had to make lots of amendments and changes, because when you compete, you want to hide your techniques. You want to play a poker face. You don't want to show your opponent what you're going to do. So your techniques are very deceptive and you hide them. Now on TV screen, it's quite different, because you want to show them off. So in many ways, you exaggerate your technique. You exaggerate your skill level to make it spectacular, make it applaudable by the audience. So I had to readjust my skill set completely when I came on film. But some movies, you asked me about choreography and rehearsals. Some movies take up to 7 days or 10 days rehearsals, the big budget films, because they can afford to do that. Now, on a smaller budget films, they can't afford to have so many days rehearsals. So they generally tend to keep it shorter. But the end product you get obviously is going to be different. High budget films, they can afford to have 5 days rehearsal or even more before you start doing the shoot. Ideally, I like to rehearse more, because action is much, much harder than to deliver most of the other things, deciding the angles and choreography, as well as bonding and gelling together with your teammates. So the more days you have, the better generally. But some of the professionals can pull it off within a day or two very easily.
I believe so. I think it depends on skill level as well. And you mentioned something, gelling and, you know, working together. For us, for instance, I'll just use an example. If I have a partner that I always do jiu-jitsu with, I know kind of, you know, what speed to go, and I know how hard or how soft to do the moves, because we're practicing. We're not there to hurt each other like in a real fight. But I guess we tend to learn, you know, to see each other's energy.
I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
good.
I can hear you now. No, you broke up a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess we get to know our partners. We get to know the energy signature, the way they move. So that's what the gelling really transmitted to me here when you talked about that. And injury wise, do you ever get injured? Have you been injured before?
Oh, of course I have. I'll mention some injuries, but before that, just to answer your previous question, talking about gelling with your teammates. When you go to competition, you want to overcome the other opponent by being stronger or more skilled. When it comes to film fighting, you have a dance partner. They're your dance partner, so you have to gel. You really have to gel, and that's why it really helps. It's very handy if you work with someone you worked with before, because you trust each other. And I think trust is very, very important, because if you don't trust the other person, they're going to pull off their techniques, or they're going to get to your face 1 inch close to your face. It's going to come off on the camera. You're looking very nervous and concerned and anxious. So generally, if you work with a person before, had sufficient rehearsals, it's going to come across a lot more natural. It's going to come across a lot more natural. But yes, when it comes to injuries, yes, I mean, some of the one film, namely Transporter 3, I was doing a fight routine with Jason Statham all day long. And naturally, because you're doing it all day long, you don't have sufficient time to warm up and stretch. You do it
Yes.
at the beginning of the day, but because there's too many stop starts and too many takes, injuries can happen. And I threw a turning kick. I mean, it wasn't even high turning kick. I've got flexibility to kick much higher. It wasn't even a high section turning kick. I kicked him and I tore my hamstring,
Oh,
which took me
wow.
over a year, almost a year and a half to get over completely. Yeah. But I carried on shooting that day. The French production said to me, would you like us to get you a stunt double to finish it off? I said, no, I want to finish this off myself. So I shot the rest of the day. They gave me some very strong painkillers, but I got through it. But like I said, it took my injury a year and a half to recover from afterwards.
Mm. That's hard work, in one day, and that's a serious injury. I've seen at the dojo how, some of the karateka have really pulled their hamstrings, and it's very painful. And the fact that you continued and you didn't want a stunt double to fill in for you, that just displays, your skill level, your fitness level, as well as your dedication and your passion for what you do. And tell us about the movies that you were in. And we talked about Transporter 3, Dead or Alive. Tell us more about those.
I'm going to get back to that one very, very shortly. Just to answer your previous question, and this is something that I've even picked up from my friend Scott Atkins, who I've worked on 6 different productions, is he will do a take and director will say, okay, I'm happy with this take. Let's move on.
Yeah.
But Scott would feel, I can do better than this. So I think I owe it to myself to do another take because I can do better than I just did. And he would say to director, no, sorry, do you mind if I do another take? Because I can do better than this. So it was one of those things. I really wanted to be credited for the whole action. That's why I did not want to stunt double. I wanted to make sure that it was all done by me.
Beautiful.
Now,
Beautiful.
the films I've done, oh my God, sometimes I forget. So it's very nice to watch some of these reels because it reminds me some of the stuff I've done. Transporter 3, Unleashed, Black Mask 2, Man of Tai Chi with Keanu Reeves. Last year I did Angels Fallen, which comes out in June this year. Street Fighter Resurrection. I've done Lex. Some of the ones I can think top of my head. I think I've done 37 productions so far, 37 feature films plus TV shows.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And the list just keeps getting longer. And, you are so skilled at what you do. I can see that you love what you do as well. I believe, it's your passion and your destiny to be doing what you are doing. And I watched a video where you talked about how important meditation is to get your mind in the right space, especially when you're training or when you are getting ready for whatever production you're going to be in. Tell us a little bit more about how you impart information and strategies into your mindful thinking. How does that look for you?
Well, the thing is, I love reading books, and primarily the books I read are books on self-help, on spiritual development. Physical development is something I've always embraced, and I've always been doing it since very young age, from martial arts to weight training to going gym every day now. So it's always been a very, very important part of my life. But also one thing I'm consciously aware of as a martial artist is we always strive for balance, balance of the 3 beings that we are. And everything we do is in a very, very, very delicate balance, and it's very easily to offset this balance. And we all know when we overwork, we offset the balance, we fall ill, we fall sick. So it's always very important to maintain this balance. Spirituality and meditation, I picked up many, many years ago, maybe 20 years ago. Initially, it was through subliminal audio sounds that I listen to when I go to bed, or I close my eyes and I meditate. But I've been doing it every single night. So I would meditate for 2-3 hours whilst I'm sleeping, in addition to my daily meditations. But interestingly, let me just tell you a story. In January this year, I went to Thailand to meditation retreats. Yeah. I only did it for 3 days this time round, but I'm going back next January for a whole week, where I'm going to be challenged to meditate for 14 hours a day. No mobile phones, no alcohol, no screen time, every single day. This is something I'd like to challenge myself with. I think I've challenged myself with many different things before. So this is a challenge that I would like to undertake for the first time. So I'm going back next January to do that.
That's amazing. That's going to be quite the experience. I mean, that's going to be a time of introspection, a time of recalibration, really just centering that energy yourself. I believe that we have to do that daily, like you do. I
For
always,
sure.
every morning, I calibrate my energy. I align myself with me, and I align myself with the universe. And I have this little practice in the morning for 5 minutes. I close my eyes and I become mindful. I become mindful of my thoughts. I acknowledge my thoughts. So if I wake up, sometimes it would be an anxious state. Let's say I've got a long day and I woke up a little bit late. I would acknowledge those thoughts, and then I would turn the negative ones into positive ones. And if I'd had a tough day at training the day before, maybe my ankle is sore or there's a muscle that's sore, I would kind of envision how I send positive healing energy to that muscle. And when I'm done with those 5 minutes, changing those thoughts into positive thoughts, sending that good energy, I'm done with the pain, and then I just
You're a martial artist, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Exactly the balance we'll strive for. But
that's
you
it.
mentioned mindfulness, and one thing I remembered when I was at the meditation retreat, we'd wake up in the morning, go for breakfast, and they said, you can have a mindful breakfast. So I said, what's a mindful breakfast? And you'd have to sit in this cubicle and have breakfast by yourself, not allowed to speak to anyone. Just focus on what you're eating, have your food.
Wow, that's amazing.
But you know what I find, especially nowadays, we've become, and it serves us in a good way. Mobile phones serve us in many, many good ways, but I think we misuse it way too often. We have dinner with our parents and our siblings and our loved ones. We're texting. So our mind is somewhere else. So we may be in the same room, but our mind is somewhere else. And everybody's doing it now. One thing I do curse is people go to the gym constantly on mobile phones. I'm like, give yourself just 45 minutes a day of pure escape from your mobile devices, because we spend our days from the morning till the late evening on mobile phones. So I've learned not to do it. I never, ever take my phone to the gym. When I have dinner with my family, I make sure my phone is off. There has to be time where you are mindful about what you're doing. And when you give yourself that full focus and energy on that one thing, then the experience is much more fulfilling and beautiful.
That's true. It's edifying. You know what I do when I want to escape a little bit? I go on hikes and I put my phone off and I don't take anyone with me. And it's just me and nature. And I feel like a new person when I come back. That helps.
I bet you do. Yeah, I bet you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
You connect with the nature, of course.
I do. I ground myself, and that energy, it's just amazing. Really empowering a thing to do. And I do it on a regular basis. I'm sure you do that as well. Just take yourself out of the environment and just be with yourself.
Of course. On daily basis, I think it's very important because, I've made those mistakes thousands of times before. That's why I'm preaching or saying from the point of view of someone who's made those mistakes many times before. I've got myself a balance, doing too much, too little. And I'm always striving to find just the right one, because if you offset the balance, you get into the downward spiral, which I have done many, many times. So for me, it's always a daily striving for balance, for balance. Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned in that video that I watched, the yin and the yang. You were talking about balance. You were talking about energy, how we can't do away with that energy. We can change it into something else. And something I like to talk about, I actually talked about that in an interview earlier today, is the fact that I see obstacles as negative energy. And, when you are centered and you know who you are in your energy, you have the power to speak to those obstacles and remove them out of your way per se. So tell us a little bit more about your view about the yin and the yang. I know you talked about that as well.
Well, you mentioned it earlier on, and you're talking about energies and vibrations. That the highest vibrational frequency is love. And you mentioned passion earlier on, or desire. And I remember reading Napoleon Hill's book, I think 1937, Think and Grow Rich. And he says, the first step to any success is desire or passion. You have to have desire and passion to succeed. And if you're going to have longevity in any area of your life, you have to have passion, because when you hit those obstacles and challenges you mentioned, if your desire is not strong enough, if your passion, if your love for it is not strong enough, you're not going to last. But that's why when people talk to me about obstacles and challenges, I don't think they're obstacles and challenges, because I've got so much passion and drive behind me. They're not challenges or obstacles. Absolutely not. It's in the same way when I go to the gym, when I'm lifting that weight, that's not an obstacle. It's just a way for me to get to my destination. But I don't find it an obstacle, because I will crush it. I will make sure I overcome the obstacle. So it's a process. It's a process which I understand helps us evolve and get better. We always stress our bodies and our minds on a microscopic level, because those little stresses will make us adapt and evolve. That's how humanity and all animal species have evolved, through stress and strain. When they've been challenged, they've changed. And challenge always leads to change. Those obstacles that we say are challenges, they're good, because they lead to change, and change is good. So embrace it as that's a good thing, because change is the only thing which is permanent in life.
That's the truth. The only thing that stays the same, change is the only constant. The only thing that stays the same is that everything changes.
Right.
And we have to be adaptable. We have to have that strong mindset like you. I've heard many people in spiritual counseling sessions tell me, oh, they've had such a difficult road. Yes, of course, everybody goes through things, but those difficult roads lead to beautiful destinations. When you have something that you need to do that you're maybe scared of, and you do it, you discover something new about yourself.
Well, you said it earlier on. I mean, coming from martial arts background, I'm sure it's going to echo in your mind too. Bruce Lee said, "Be like water, my friend." Water has got no shape or form, no color, yet it can become any shape or form or color. It's very soft, yet can penetrate through rock. We should model ourselves and try and be like water, adapt to different situations in every situation. And I think COVID-19 and the lockdowns we've had have demonstrated really well. I remember, I think it was 23rd of March, 2020, when they announced we've got lockdown. So I stopped and I thought, how am I going to run my classes? So I started looking around. I had to adapt and start teaching online. And I said to all my teachers, I said, if you don't adapt, you'll perish. Everyone, when the environment around us changes, you have to change as well, because if you don't, you're not gonna survive. And I did. I adapted. I went online. I did it straight away. But it's really funny. But that's how all businesses are. I don't know if in South Africa you had Blockbuster Video.
Yes, absolutely.
It was a famous chain. Well, I always give an example, because every high street had Blockbuster Video, but they didn't think about changing times. Everything's going digital. Everything's going online, streaming. So they didn't think, oh, in 10 years' time, the videotapes are not going to exist. The DVDs are not going to exist. So they perished. So in that sense, I always say, if you want longevity, you have to be able to adapt to all the changes that come our way.
That's the truth. That's the truth. The lockdown just happened, and at our side as well. The next week we were online with our dojo. We did our classes. We couldn't grade for 2 years because the grading system is different. You have to be there in person.
Right.
But we trained. We didn't stop training at all. And I'd have to actually say our fitness levels, because I do it with my 2 children as well, our fitness level actually went higher because now we had so much more time to train.
There you go.
To do Bata and Zumba and Taibo and everything, just to incorporate that cardio as well. So adaptability is very important. And I think it's going to become more so as well in times to come for us, because the whole world is changing. And like you said, Silvio, we have to change with the economy and the world, the greater society out there.
Sure.
So I want to ask.
Everything is changing at accelerated rates. So I think we need to be changing at the same time. And the older we get, the more changes we'll experience.
That's the truth. That's the truth. Tell me more about CGI, your connections that you've had with that, how you've encountered that. How has life on the movie set changed after COVID?
All my auditions are done online now, which is great. I don't have to go to central London, because whenever I go to central London, it's half a day gone. It's very far to go. Well, I live on the outskirts of London. So auditions are done online. So it's much, much easier. I can take my time, go through my lines and make sure I deliver in the right way. So in that sense, it's become a lot easier, a lot quicker. But when I first started off, and I told this story a few times, it's really funny how we're talking about changing times. But I remember I sourced some 370 production companies in Hong Kong. And coming from martial arts background, I thought this is my niche market. So I need to approach the Hong Kong production companies for some possible work. So when I did my show reel on VHS tape, I reproduced, I think, 270 copies of it, and I posted it to Hong Kong. It cost me a fortune. It took me 3 weeks in total to do this process.
Oh my goodness.
I got 3 jobs out of it. 3 jobs. But nowadays it's much easier. You can shoot on your mobile phone, put it on YouTube within minutes. Press the button, send it off to all the production companies within seconds. So in that sense, it's much, much easier. So maybe you can put your focus and energy into other areas, whereas maybe before you had to put your energy and focus into areas which were a lot more time consuming.
We get more done. We get more done now because everything's faster, like you said. Absolutely. Now that's wonderful. And you are on the film sets, and I bet a day can get very tiring. How many hours do you, for instance, train at a time or work on a sequence? I've always wondered about that.
On film sets?
Yes.
Film sets, days are very, very, very long. And I'm sure, as you know yourself, some of the productions are very expensive.
Yes.
For instance, how much was Unleashed was 200,000 euros per day. 200,000 euros. If someone gets injured or production gets put on hold, it's costing the production a fortune. Sorry, what was the question regarding the time?
How many hours do you spend on set?
Naturally, these production companies want to make sure they get their value for money. They want to make sure they work you for 12 to 14 hours a day. Although I have to say European and American unions, they're very strict in terms of not doing too much overtime. But if you're working for Hong Kong or for India, they'll get you working for 3 weeks in a row without a single day off.
Oh my goodness.
My first experience was working for Hong Kong production, and I worked for 3 weeks without a single day off. Even the days I wasn't working, I was expected to be on film set just in case if they needed me. So naturally, I got into their mindset. This is a full-on 18 hours a day, 7 days a week work. And I didn't mind because it was a learning experience for me. Like someone said to me, being 1 day on a film set is equivalent of doing 6 months drama school. You learn so much. It's incredible. It's like being pushed in a deep end of the pool. Learn to swim. So very, very long hours. Most productions, Europeans generally not as long. There are strong unions behind which command how many hours you're allowed to work per day.
Fantastic. Yeah, so those are long hours, takes a lot of grit and grind and dedication, and but you enjoy it because you love what you do. How long does it take for a film to be shot? How long does that production take? Does it differ? Is it 2 years?
Big productions will take their time. Will take anything between 2 to 3 months, or it can take longer. It can take up to 6 months, but generally 2 to 3 months. Smaller productions, 6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks.
Oh, I thought it was much longer. I thought 2 years, maybe even more.
No. I mean, the film I shot last year in Georgia, former USSR, it's not been released, but they've been busy with post-production rather than shooting. They shot everything within 4 weeks. It looks like a very, very expensive, high-budget film. Just the way they did it was very good. Great production value. It was shot in 4 weeks.
Amazing. And what do you like to do? When you're done with the film, do you take a week or two off, or do you just go straight into other routines, or what's that like? Generally,
I like to take a few days off, not so much a week, because then lots of things would have piled up with my other jobs and other businesses that I've got to catch up with it. So generally, I'll kind of go back into it within few days. I'll get back to my other things within days. Sometimes things clash each other. I'm shooting 2 films in June, both in Belgium and UK. I was offered another role for a film which I couldn't even audition for this morning. My agent sent me a script, and I said, I'm sorry, I can't do this because they start shooting in May all the way through to July. So sometimes you let go of the jobs, big jobs, because you've already signed a contract with someone else.
Oh, I
But
hear. Yeah,
timings, you can't control that.
yeah, no one can control that. That happens. Martial arts is. I want to talk a little bit about leadership and martial arts, and really how that instills that discipline in us when we start. And it really kind of ciphers into the rest of your life. I'd say if I have to look back over my years, it's ciphered into my life. It's ciphered into the way I manage myself. It's ciphered into the way I do my business. And leadership really is it's a necessity. And I see that there are gaps in our society with regards to leadership roles. Who was a significant leader in your life that you can look back at and say, this person really, they mentored me, they coached me, and they were just a significant leader in my life?
I would say the first person, my father, no doubt. My father had huge impact on me in so many ways, academically and in other areas as well. He was a very successful sports person, but academically he was very, very accomplished as well. He had 2 university degrees, as well as he was so good at football. He was offered a professional contract for a football team, but he refused it because he wanted to go to university instead and graduate. So I've got so much respect for my dad. He's taught me an awful lot and influenced in so many ways.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing. Yes, a father figure is very important. Gratitude. We send that energy out into the universe. We receive that same energy back. If we live a life of gratitude, what would you say as we sit here today? I'm all the way in South Africa. You are in the UK. Is there something that you are grateful for today? Something that comes to mind that you would like to share with the audience?
Oh, I've got thousands of things I can be grateful for, and one of the words in our creed for martial arts, in the class, we raise our right hand. One of them is gratitude. Very, very important, powerful feeling, which makes us feel great. I'm grateful for so many things. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my job. I'm grateful for the freedom that I have in my life to express myself in the way that I do. I'm grateful that for the friends I have. I'm grateful for so many things I have. Very great. I'm grateful to be doing something I've got passion for. I'm grateful that I have the opportunities to express myself in the way I can. I'm very grateful I live in part of the world where I can fulfill my dreams and ambitions.
Beautiful. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And as leaders out there in society, as professionals in what we do, we're all professional in the certain field that we work in. I want to ask sometimes we learn lessons during the course of a project or during the course of a certain time in our lives. What was, for instance, the hardest lesson that you ever had to learn? And it can be in any setting. It doesn't have to necessarily be while you were doing a movie. Was there a lesson that you learned the hard way that really impacted you?
I guess when people have let me down, people were very, very close to me. And I think initially I've probably taken it very personal. And people do that. People come in and out of our lives, and we can't control it. I think initially we've got a tendency to bang our head against the wall, trying to make sense of it. Why is it happening? Why is it happening to me? Why are they like this? You can go on forever, but sometimes you got to just accept things as they are.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth, and that's how we learn. It makes us better.
For sure, things we can't control. If we can accept it, then accept it. And my best friend, bless him. I mean, sometimes he had big disasters in his life. He remains very calm. And I just dropped him off at the airport before this interview. And I remember when he's a gym owner, and in 1 week his partner left him. His house was flooded completely. His gym was on fire, all within 1 week, and he just remained so calm. He remains so calm. He does not express it at all. And I said, "You're going to live 150 years." He just does not stress at all.
That's it. That's the truth. That's the truth. It's amazing.
Much to learn from it. Yeah.
Yeah, we learn from that as well, from his conduct in that situation. And then when we face things, we think of those examples. That's amazing. And before we end this, I know you have a very busy schedule. And before we end this interview, I want to ask you 2 more questions. And the first one is, have you ever been on a movie set where something really funny happened, where you just couldn't stop laughing, or was it all serious? What was that like?
No, it's not. It's not always serious. I've got so many fun memories and funny memories from the film set. There's a bit in Unleashed where Jet Li jumps on my back, and I throw him over my back onto the floor. And he jumped on my back and he started kissing my neck. And he said, "We don't want to fight, we're friends." which was quite funny. But each film set is different, and there's always something funny to go home with. And each experience is very powerful and memorable.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. That's quite funny. I saw it in my mind's eye. I'm sure it looked very funny to all the onlookers. So
yeah,
thank you.
it was.
Yeah. Let me ask you, Silvio, a final question. Do you have any words of wisdom for the audience before we close out the session?
Yes, I guess maybe something I always say to my students: whatever journey you're making, identify what the purpose is. What's the purpose of your journey? Because the bigger your why, the easier your journey will be. The easier will be the how. And this is where I find most people fail. The reason they fail, whether it's getting into films or in martial arts or losing weight, is they've not identified why they're doing it, the purpose behind it. So I think people tend to wander around getting lost. Find the purpose, find the reason why you're doing it, because the bigger your reason or bigger your why, the easier will be the how. And that's why you're not going to view the challenges and obstacles as challenges and obstacles. You'll find them as part of the process to help you grow and evolve.
Amazing. I really appreciate you from the Meticulous Moments side. Thank you so much for making time. And it was just a lovely conversation, and I'll be cheering you on this journey.
Thank you. Thank you. Love your show. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Silvio. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're the #1 fastest growing community and tribe of some of the highest level entrepreneurs all around the country and around the world. We're in 36 states across the U.S., in 11 international countries, and over 240 plus members, growing every single day. And I'm honored, excited, and I'm glad to say that I'm proud to be the official sponsor of the Meticulous Moments podcast with Juanita Kapp. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm excited for this journey.
Hey everybody, my name is Patrick Rude. I'm the owner of Rude Financial Services, a proud sponsor of the Meticulous Moments podcast, hosted and directed by the beautiful, strong, and intelligent Juanita Kapp. I cannot tell you enough about what this woman has done with this podcast and the effect that she has had on me and all of the other sponsors and people that listen. Don't miss it.